Today's webinar is all about Tuscany, where we are headed again this time next year. As Alfie's going to share in a few moments with us, he's there now. So we have a group of our members in Cortona, which is in the southeastern part of Tuscany. So he's going to give you a live report on this program and what it's all about. There's Alfie with a few of our group members from one of the walks or hikes that you did around Cortona, I guess.
MONTE GINEZZO, yeah.
Indeed. So you get a sense of the beautiful countryside, and you'll get more photos of that. And greetings from all of our members over there who are, from reports I've heard from Alfie, are having a grand time in enjoying Tuscany and the countryside. And that is really what we are all about at Wheel and Anchor. And again, there's a few faces I haven't seen before. So to let you know what we're all about, the vision of our community, and we are a community of travelers from all across Canada, is that we, really like to explore the world with people who have kind of a like-minded sense of what travel is all about. We've gone beyond tourists. We're not here to sort of check off the box. Of course, we all want to check off our box, but we're all about the experiences that we share together at a slower pace than what you'll find in many other trips. And again, it's really quite amazing. We have 3 trips happening simultaneously right now: France, Croatia, and Alfie in Tuscany. And people that have never met before are just gelling in a way that is so magical, and it just warms my heart. And it's the mission that we set out to do with Wheel and Anchor, and I can say we are honestly accomplishing on it. Look at the smiles. This is actually a shot from our group who was in Tuscany this past spring in May. We had a grand time on our May trip as well. The small group, as you can see, all the smiles there. And as I say, what my vision is that you become well-traveled and connected to your fellow travelers, but also to the people that you meet in the regions, the towns that we visit. And that's really what makes it special. And you can only do that by taking time. And that's really the difference at Wheel and Anchor. So enough about that. Quick introduction to our team today. My name is Gordon, founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I'm joined today by my esteemed colleagues, Paula and Barb, who's not on screen today, but they are our core part of our team who deals with our members. Big wave from Paula from the Ottawa Valley. And of course, Alfie, live from Tuscany today with the beautiful weather in the background. Thank you for joining us and taking a few minutes out of your hosting schedule to share with our members all about what this program is all about. So we're going to go on a little tour of this program, which is 2 parts. It is Cortona, which again is in the southeastern part of Tuscany, and Florence, which you will have heard of, the capital of the region of Tuscany. And I, together with Alfie, are going to take you on a bit of a tour where we're going next year in October. This quote kind of captures what our LiveAways are all about, in particular with Tuscany. This quote from one of the people that is in the photo there, basically saying it's all about being able to unpack and settle in, not live out of a suitcase. And it's the mix between free time and all of the activities that we orchestrate, and really that's what we're there to do, is facilitate your exploration, your adventure through these towns. And so that's the kind of things that people are saying, and I'm sure that our members from this year's trip will say as well. So let's dive right into the day-by-day itinerary. Just to show you the map, you can see in the inset there where we're talking about Tuscany is in the central northern part of Italy, so north of Rome, Florence being the capital. This program, we're going to start in Cortona, just because the weather at the beginning of October is a little better maybe than in the end of October. In the spring, we do it the other way around. The first 2 weeks we spend, as I say, in Cortona, which you can reach by train from Rome, or actually our members are usually picked up in Rome at the airport. It's from here that we can visit all these wonderful hilltops towns. And again, if you look behind Alfie, you see what the view is like from Cortona. You look out over this vast plain.
I'm pretty sure, like, Montepulciano is like right here, and Spello is about there, and yeah, you can pretty much see all the places we end up going, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah, from exactly. It's like you can point, just looking out of your window. That's why we picked this spot. It's really an amazing town, and so we'll spend the first 2 weeks there, which I'll describe in a second. The second 2 weeks in Florence itself, and you know, a lot of people, for most people, Florence is like a 2 or 3 day stop on a bus tour or on any kind of a tour, frankly. And this city is incredible, and you know, Alfie will attest to it. When we hosted the tour in this past May, it was his first visit, and I tell you, it makes you want to move there. There is so much culture and so much amazing food and architecture, and you just can't get enough of the place. So we'll spend the second 2 weeks there and have side trips over to Cinque Terre, the famous national park on the Mediterranean, on the Tyrrhenian Sea, as well as Bologna, one of the food capitals of Italy, and so lots to do from Florence. So, all right, enough of me talking. From Alfie, who is, when you look at this picture of Cortona, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse or not, but Alfie is sitting right up here, sort of in the, can you see my mouse? Is that on the screen?
Yeah, we can see.
So Alfie's right up
Pretty
here
much,
in,
yeah.
towards the top of the hill below the church. The town, as you can see, it is a hilltop town and it is steep. Most of the apartments that we have are right down in the center of the town, which is over here to the left of the screen. So you don't have to walk way uphill every single day. In fact, you can, you know, all the pedestrians, all you need to see is in the center of Alfie, just, you know, what we have there. But it's kind of unique here because, you know, there's certainly hotels, but because we're staying for 2 weeks, we like to be able to stay in apartments. So we have an assortment of these, you know, Tuscan apartments. Some of the buildings are really old.
I mean, I don't even think there's anything in town. Sure, there's things that have been redone, but, you know, the majority of town is hundreds of years old, multiple hundreds of years old. So, yeah.
Hundreds of years old. And yet they've created these apartments and they're, you know, they're completely renovated. Most of them, you know, some of them are, you know, might date back 20 years or something like that, but they're new on the inside. They have all the amenities that you can expect. They come equipped with a kitchen and a living area, and, you know, depending on whether it's a studio or a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, and we have different types of apartments available. They are really quite comfortable. You open your window, you have a view either to somewhere in the old town or out to the valley below. And because they're apartments, you have, you know, apartment style service. So we're not staying in a hotel. You don't have daily housekeeping, but they come in and change the sheets twice a week. So it feels like being at home, and that's kind of what the point of a LiveAway is. Alfie, how are our members finding, you know, the accommodations in Cortona?
For the most part, everybody's really enjoying this style of living. People have found their ways to navigate through having to go through, you know, little alleyways and narrow sections, but sometimes if you don't want to do that, you can do a slower route that means you have less stairs and things like that. But in terms of the actual apartments, everybody's having a wonderful time, and yeah, they're enjoying the fact that they have a kitchen to themselves and the views that really match what is right behind me, straight out of the kitchen window every morning over breakfast. So yeah, it's been delightful.
Perfect. And so again, the photos give you a little bit of a sense of what the apartments are like. They're all a different style. No two are exactly the same. Some are a little bigger, some are a little smaller. I think they all have ample space, but you get that traditional Tuscan charm. And so from there, we have a whole range of optional excursions to choose from. And when I say optional, again, the point of a LiveAway is that you can choose to do as much or as little as you want. Included in the program, we give you what's called an activity credit. So already built in is about $1,500 worth of excursions to choose from. And so, you know, this means, and we're going to go through all these, you could spend all of that. If you did literally everything we have to offer, you'd have to top that up by a bit. If you did less than what we have to offer at the end of the trip, we will gladly refund you back whatever you don't spend. But I think pretty much everybody is really keen there to get involved. But some people want to just sort of hang out in a cafe. So everybody's doing different things. And, you know, in general, regardless of how many people join the LiveAway overall, it's, what would you say, Alfie? It's between sort of 7 and 12 people on average on each trip.
Yeah, on each day trip. I mean, obviously, with a day like Montepulciano, this is like a, you know, famous historical city. Everybody wants to do that bit. But on the rest of the excursion days, yeah, we've had groups of 6 on some days and 10 on others. And it's really nice because different groups of people will come together, and you'll have a, you know, a different set of people that at lunch that day, and you won't have had a good chat with them. So then you get to bond and converse with them, and yeah, just experience something new just with a new group of people each day.
Exactly. And so Montepulciano, for example, as you say, it's super famous town because of the wine that comes from this region. What were a couple of the highlights from a visit to Montepulciano?
I mean, the major thing for me, Monte in Italian means mountain, so it's, or mound, and so it's on, Montepulciano is on a small hill. And so again, a lot like Cortona, it's a bit of a hilly town, but as you're doing this beautiful city tour, you learn all about the wine culture there, and we go down into one of the cellars underneath the city. So under the whole of this bustling environment, you've got these phenomenal wine cellars underneath. And I mean, I've been to vineyards and wineries before, and this was, I've never seen anything like it. You're just sort of like, how on earth did you get all this in here and under here? It's just like a maze continuing underground into these Amazing. Beautiful old cask cellars, and yeah, stunning.
Yeah, amazing. And so that's, again, like what what we try to accomplish is to see something that you maybe never seen before, and you know, some of the unique things about some of these stops. Of course, you can't be in Tuscany without visiting wineries, and so San Luciano, I think this was one that you went on as well, was it not? As
Absolutely, a family? Yeah. So this was the excursion we went on the other day, just a few days ago, and there was people on the trip who, yeah, Canada produces plenty of wine, and there was lots of wine fans with us, and they said, I have never been on a wine tasting this detailed and with somebody this dedicated. The woman who was looking after us is, you know, her family have been making these grapes on this particular property for many generations, and you could just feel her passion in everything she said. They, you know, had such a complimentary way of growing particular plants with their grapes, so they could have more information about the health of their grapes, things like that. And even our local host said, I hope I can find a way of taking a lot of this wine back with me to where I live in Thailand a lot of the year. So exactly. That speaks volumes, I think.
Speaks volumes. And again, that's sort of the idea that we have here, is that, you know, we've identified these smaller places to go, right? And, you know, I don't like to harp on the subject, but, you know, the big bus tours go to the big wineries, and it's kind of like a Disney tour, but we really try to find these places where you get an experience directly from the owner that is like no other. Now, it's a funny story about this picture, because it says that a hike or a walk on Monte GINEZZO, but the picture is actually the lake that's nearby Cortona. But in any event, tell us about the hiking and the walking sort of in general, because this is something.
So you showed a picture at the start of the current group that we have got here, and that was a picture from the top of Monte GINEZZO. And from there, you can see the lake. So you're looking at this lake, but you're not that close up. But yeah, it was a delightful stroll. We saw all these various mushrooms as we were wandering through the woods. And, you know, our hiking guide was wonderful, telling us all about all the various trees and things like that. And it's not the only hike we go on here. We do a couple. So in the 2 weeks we're in Cortona, we do a couple of walks. So this one was one in GINEZZO. We also do another one where we walk from the monastery at STLE and head all the way down to the Etruscan tombs down at the bottom end of town. And again, completely diverse and different. You get to really immerse yourself in this stunning scenery.
Yeah, amazing. And talking about that, one of the things that Cortona is known for is this Etruscan history. And so the Etruscans are back from, I think it's before the Roman era that the
Yeah,
Etruscans were in Cortona.
500 BC. Yeah.
Yeah, so the walls of the city of Cortona date back to the Etruscan era. So, again, forget the Romans. We're talking, centuries beforehand. And that's kind of what makes this whole environment special is that, not only the wine and the sort of the current stuff that you see, which is amazing, but it's in so much, it's buried in so much history.
And they're very, very proud of it.
Exactly. And you get to see bits of it sort of everywhere around, starting with the walls, but everywhere sort of throughout the town.
Absolutely.
There are so many places to visit around Tuscany that, and we sort of picked out a few of the highlights. Lucignano is yet another one. I haven't been there myself, but again, this was something you also did in the last few days.
Yeah. So Lucignano was a beautiful little sort of circular medieval town, as you can see from the picture here, and it was built that way in sort of in a defensive, intentional fashion. And it's a place where you can go and learn a lot about the medieval history here, beyond again the history of the Romans and things like that. And yeah, it has a phenomenal basilica, as almost all these towns do, and you get to look at the beautiful frescoes and things like that. But yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful spot.
And even though I know how Canadians and our members always say to me, we're not sure about the ABC tour. And if you're not sure what that means, another bloody church. But at the same time, we don't dwell on that. However, you can't help not being impressed by how many of them and how different each one is and how unique they are. And that's part of the charm in all these different places. Castles abound as well. The Castle of Poppi.
This one for me was phenomenal. I had never been to the Castle of Poppi before. I'd never even heard of the Castle of Poppi before. And going there was quite astounding. Even I found for a lot of the group Canadians, they go, there's nothing this old in Canada building wise that's still standing. And, in the UK, you have castles galore, but the condition of this castle, and you can go in the prison cell and they tell you all about how they used to keep all the prisoners and things. It was a phenomenal experience. They have this astounding library in there that teaches you all about the history of when music began being written on paper, like the origins of sheet music. And it's, one of the most incredible libraries, in fact, that I've ever been in Poppi Castle.
Yeah. So the castles, again, so many great things. Also, Tuscany, again, you keep coming back to the food whenever you're dealing with Tuscany. It's wine, it's food, it's cheese. And you certainly eat a lot of it. So what about cheese? How?
Oh, I mean, what's his name? Giuseppe from the Pienza cheese farm was a highlight for me already, just because of this comedian that we came across in the cheese farm. He was just, again, so passionate, so knowledgeable. It's been in his family for generations, and it's him and his three brothers. And you can just tell that it's like, this isn't a labor for them. As much as we might think that, running a cheese farm with 1,000 sheep, that's got to be a nightmare. They can tell that he's so involved, so in it, and it just is what he loves. And you hear all about the different ways that they'll age cheese and the different things they'll put in cheese whilst they age them to give them certain qualities. And yeah, it was quite an education. I mean, we did some of this in Cyprus as well. We went and looked at the cheese making process. This was, for me, was another level. It really was.
Yeah, and this is why you go and visit all these different places, because the same thing. We just have done a couple of cheese things here on the trip that I'm on in France, and but the common thread here is the family ownership, the family involvement. I mean, the fact that the products that they consume here that they're so proud of are produced in relatively small quantities by these family run farms and operations, and you can feel the heart that goes into things that are produced in this region. And that's kind of the experience that you get. Siena. If you haven't heard of it, this is a absolutely incredible city that is sort of between Cortona and Florence. We visited from Cortona because it's just a little bit closer, yeah, you can see the Campanile here, the cathedral in the main square. And tell us about what people's impressions were of Siena.
So, I mean, Siena is a wonderful one because the way that you approach it and where you park, you start with this phenomenal scape across the valley, like, because it's built on a bit of there's two sides effectively, and you have to walk around to the other side. So you get to start by seeing all of the sort of the scape of everything you're about to go and visit. And as you do the wonderful city tour again, it is a mountain town, so a little bit hilly and things like that. But you get up close to the facades of these phenomenal buildings, and despite what Gordon said, like, yes, yeah, there's churches everywhere, but you go inside this one and it's wow. It becomes breathtaking. Trying to comprehend the details, the amount of art that is historically being housed there, the importance of it over however many centuries it's been now that this church has stood there. I think eight centuries or something under construction. And even still before that, there was another cathedral that stood on top of it, and you can go and visit underneath where they found all of the crypts of the previous cathedral that stood there. And once again, another absolutely remarkable library, not with that many books to be fair, but the frescoes in this library are just like, oh, okay. And you just sort of walk around completely breathtaking.
Yeah,
I actually went back in the free time. I found myself back in the cathedral just to go and gawp a little more, if you like.
absolutely. And shopping, because Cortona being a smaller town that has some absolutely lovely things, and for those that do the second part in Florence, obviously there as well. But from what I recall, you were saying, Alfie, everybody was really enamored by some of the things that there are to buy.
Certainly. So yeah, I mean, in Siena, being a bit of a bigger city, certainly than Cortona, as you can see with this enormous basilica on the picture here, there is a lot more little local shops to do, buy all the local products, from cheeses to olive oils to beautiful wine. Yeah, there's a lot more on offer in Siena for anybody who doesn't go on to the Florence.
Doesn't want to continue on to Florence. But so anyway, that sort of gives you a bit of a taste of what you can expect from the Cortona half of our Tuscany program. It is a magical way to experience this beautiful part of Tuscany, and really live in one of these hilltop towns, in an apartment, and feel like you're part of the living and breathing there. We have some fantastic lunches that are included with our excursions, but you have the opportunity for the most part to explore some of the many restaurants. And even though it's a small town, I think you'd have to be there for 2 months to eat in every restaurant that's there. And there is everything from pizza. I remember when Alfie and I were there, the pizza place that we went to, which is sort of the most basic of place, but I'll tell you, the best pizza you'll ever find, better than anything you'll find back home in Canada, all the way up to what I would consider Michelin star dining, like top level, incredible, at comparably very reasonable prices. And that's again one of the appeal that I found. And anything you want to add on that, Alfie, about the dining?
I mean, in terms of the dining here in Cortona, even though it's a small town, like Gordon said, you won't get through them all, and it's really hard to hit a dud meal here. I've certainly not come across one yet, and I've been here for 2 weeks.
There you go. It's Italy. So
yeah.
let's now touch on the second part of our program. So after we spend 2 weeks in Cortona, or you can obviously opt to do either Cortona or Florence. But we'll bring you up to Florence. It's actually not even that far away. It's only about an hour and 30 minutes away, depending on the traffic there, to Florence, looking this view down the river, overlooking Ponte Vecchio. This city is really just a magical place, and you cannot get enough of it. And I know that, you know, I've been there many times before, and people stay for 2 or 3 days and think, why didn't I stay longer? Why didn't I stay longer? Well, this is the opportunity. And as with Cortona, we have secured some wonderful apartments right in the city center. We have studios, again, fully equipped, actually quite modern kitchens. You get a taste of what some of them look like here. We have studios, we have deluxe studios. I mean, look at this one here. And again, these are just samples. It's we have different ones that are sort of on offer, but some of them have beautiful frescoes, painted ceilings. Like, this is the way that you want to enjoy your time in a place like Florence. 1-bedroom apartments. We also have 2-bedroom apartments. For example, in a building, this is one of my favorite spots, which is actually right on the square, looking out the window. The window that you see there looks out overlooking the Duomo. So, you know, if you've got a couple of friends that want to go and you want to stay in what I consider the best location in Florence, then you can check in and stay in one of these apartments. The decor is you know, a little bit antique. You can see it here, and you can't quite see again the painted ceilings, but most of all the view, the location. You're right in the thick of things in Florence, and so this is the way to do it, and this is what we're all about on our LiveAway programs. Once again, lots to do in Florence. We were there this past May, and Alfie, you're headed there this weekend, I guess, with the group to once again experience this LiveAway. So we're going to just share with you a couple of the programs that we have on offer. This one is a new one that we've added to the program, which is our unique, so-called unique boutique experience. So we haven't actually had members participate in this yet, but we came across actually a Canadian woman that runs this, call it a shopping tour, but takes you around to some of the interesting and unique shops that are off the beaten tourist track. Florence, of course, as you can imagine, packed with tourists. The main streets leading up to the Ponte Vecchio and around are full of shops, and a lot of them, you know, as you can imagine, it's sort of mass production stuff it's geared at the tourists that file through on their buses and so on and so forth. But when you take the time for example, with a program like this, our counterpart over there, she will bring you around and take you to various shops that are away from the city center, away from all of the hustle bustle, where artisans are making things, you know, like leather, for example, which is Tuscany is famous for. But, you know, if you go to the main leather market, 80% of the stuff that's there is produced sort of offshore. So you need to really know where to buy the stuff that you want to buy. So that's one of the programs that we offer. Also, pasta making, because of course Italy is synonymous with pasta. And so on this particular excursion, we'll actually take you to a cooking school to show you the traditional way of making pasta. And, you know, restaurants, again, maybe not all the ones on the main tourist street, but the ones that we sort of point you in the direction to, they make all their pasta in-house at home. If you ever had sort of some, you know, Italian family or some neighbors and so on, you'll know that the best kind of pasta is fresh pasta. And the best way to do it is to just do it yourself and make it at home. You'll learn all about the different kinds of pasta, how it's made, why they're all called different names. And even though the ingredients are the same, but they all seem to taste a little bit different. So that's our pasta making program. The Boboli and Bardini Gardens. Maybe Alfie, you want to share a little bit about this, because I remember in May, I only joined for part of this tour because I was off doing some other things. What's your recollection from our guest experience in May about this trip?
So I remember I can't remember which way round it was, but one of the gardens had this beautiful, oh, the bells are going off. Might be, maybe you can overhear it, but yeah, so I remember one of the gardens is this beautifully laid out part of the Pitti Palace, and it's just seemed to be a maze of beautiful hedgerows and wonderful statues and things like that you pass all the way through until with our guide Angela, who teaches you all about the history of the families that lived there, and yeah, it's just it's a very interesting step, I guess, because it's not built up in any sort of way. You can get to really step back in time when you hear the things that used to go on there and the celebrations they used to have there and things like that.
Exactly. It's more than just the gardens. It's the story behind
Mm.
these castles and how these were all created, and the wealth of the families that created all of this, that really puts all this into perspective. And of course, this was one of my favorite parts. This was at the Bardini Gardens, this lilac alleyway where all the lilacs are hanging down like you see here. It's just was it lilacs or no, it's lilacs or lavender. Anyway, the purple ones that you see in the picture.
Wisteria or something like that.
Yeah, something purple. Yeah, I'm not the flower expert, but anyway, pretty spectacular. We also do a culinary tour, so different than the actual cooking class or the pasta making class, but this one takes you around some of the dishes that are made that Tuscany is famous for. Of course, pasta is a staple in Tuscan cuisine, as anywhere in Italy, but also bistecca fiorentina, which is of course the famous Tuscan steak. You'll see it in all the shop windows, these massive giant pieces of cow that are being dry aged over time, and they're very, very proud of their Tuscan meat. So our culinary tour will give you a little bit of an insight into some of the different dishes that are prepared in Tuscany, again, how to make them, what's involved, and you see some of the heart and soul that goes into Italian and particularly Tuscan cooking. The Michelangelo tour, if I'm not mistaken, Alfie, you went on this one in May, and I unfortunately opted out.
Yeah, I mean, this one was a phenomenal day for me, particularly as somebody who likes to paint and loves the arts. Going and just seeing all the contributions that this really, obscenely famous historical figure made in his lifetime. And even it stretches as far as here, not into Cortona, but in this part of the tour, we also get to visit some chapels that have little parts of Michelangelo's influence and the way that he really set the bar, reset the bar for the evolution of art in the time. And yeah, we go and see the chapels that he didn't quite finish because he went there and then he got commissioned by someone richer to come and do something else. And he went, well, bye then, fair enough. And yeah, it's just it's a beautiful day of exploring a variety of buildings with astounding artworks.
Yeah, and you hear these stories like Alfie was alluding to about Michelangelo and the stuff, and the Sistine Chapel was like it wasn't a project he didn't really want to do, kind of thing. It's like and then there's the statue of David, which of course you'll have a chance to admire in the Accademia Gallery if you opt to go for it. Again, so many things to see and so many nuances that you get to do. One of the trips that we are doing for the first time this upcoming trip, Alfie's going to be looking forward to going there next week, is Cinque Terre. Now, Cinque Terre, you'll probably have heard of if you've done any research on traveling around Italy. This is the world famous national park consisting of 5 villages nestled up on cliffs like you see in the photograph here, overlooking the sea. They are spectacular, but what they also are is packed with tourists. And so the ordinary tour typically takes you by land, by train, and then maybe one segment on the public boat from one village to the other. But instead, we're doing this a bit differently. It's a little more exclusive. We've chartered some small boats, so they'll take for up to about 10 members at a time, and we'll go right from La Spezia, which is the gateway to Cinque Terre, and we will go around and we'll visit the towns, stopping not at all of them just because you can't do them all really in one day, but you'll admire them from the sea. And that is the best way to take in Cinque Terre, is with a glass of wine, floating on the sea without throngs of tourists all around you, and enjoying the beautiful scenery. But of course, you'll also have a chance to go in. We'll stop for lunch at one of the villages, and you will have Cinque Terre the way that, as far as I'm concerned, it's meant to be done. So I know, Alfie, you're going to be looking forward to that program.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see it from that perspective, that because like you said, that's not how we did it last time. So to be able to see it from this perspective that you see it from in all of the magazines, that is like lots of people don't get to achieve when they actually get there.
Exactly. Okay, we're nearly at the end, but I just a couple of other things that are on our agenda. The Uffizi Gallery. I mean, this is synonymous with Florence. This is where some of the greatest masterpieces, you know, of the Italian masters are kept, and so we offer a guided tour through here, and Angela, our local guide, who will be our guide hopefully from now until the end of time, because she is truly brilliant, knows everything about everything, and is really a wonderful ambassador for us in Tuscany. And she will take you on a personalized tour and explain the highlights. You could spend, and so when we go on this visit, you have the ability to spend the whole day. So your ticket, once you get in, you're in until you're done, and you could easily spend the whole day. But we take you through and show you some of the pieces and what their significance is, and how they relate to one another, and what this guy painted and what that guy painted. It's amazing. Is there anything you want to add to that about the Uffizi?
I mean, something I would add to that, I suppose, is that with Angela, she doesn't overwhelm you with too much information here about all these. You know, you are in rooms which are just coated in priceless art pieces, all of which are significant, but she doesn't overwhelm you. But if you're an art buff, she knows absolutely every detail down to why they used the paintbrush they used, everything. So if that is something you want, she's totally there for that as well. And if you said to her, can we stay in a gallery for a while and you tell us some more about what she's going to be there, because she loves it. She absolutely loves it. She told us at one of the other galleries, the people at the door say, you come here all the time, don't you get bored? And she said, bored of showing people the greatest art collection on the planet? No, I don't get bored of that. No, not at all.
It's remarkable. And so, yeah, we're blessed to have Angela on our team. And once again, of course, as they coming back, we always come back to the food and the wine, but we have an enoteca in Florence, where you know when you look up at these vinoteques, these enotecas, these massive wine shops with a collection of wine that will boggle your mind. LCBO can eat its heart out in Canada, but you know, we'll sample some of the wines, and you'll get a bit more of an understanding about what Italian and in particular Tuscan wine is all about, and you know, the nuances and the flavors to it. So, you know, wine tasting, a great experience. And we won't just do a dedicated day for it in Tuscany, but it's kind of going to happen all throughout the tour, right? Alfie, you're going to be tasting wines basically every day. Pretty
much. It's been that way ever since we got here, yeah. And when again, it's a bit like the food. It's hard to get a dud glass, to be honest. You have a glass of wine with dinner and he goes, Chianti again? And you're like, well, yeah, go for it. And it's always amazing.
It's always amazing, and one differs from the other. And again, this is
absolutely
to it is that you, even if you're not a oenophile, you know, a wine phobe or a wine freak like I am a little bit in my better days, but you really get to understand how each of these, you know, wines differs from one another. Even though we all think about Chianti is Chianti, but there's 1,000 different ways. And so this is what the Enoteca tasting is all about. Finally, I think this is the last thing I wanted to talk about, Bologna. We get a chance here to ride the Frecciarossa, which is the high-speed express train that takes us up to Bologna, which is, you know, about, I don't know, I guess about 100 kilometers away from Florence, but we get there in 35 minutes, I think, by high-speed train. We zoom up there so we can spend a whole day exploring this city, which is known for two things, well, for many things actually, but number one, it's the porticos, and you get a sense of that by the square in the picture, these covered walkways, which the whole downtown is all covered walkways. And so we'll discover why that is. And in the process of doing so, we'll also find out that Bologna is actually considered by Italians to be, you know, the place for foodies. And some of the things that we tasted there, we tasted different pastas and meats and cheeses, and I don't even remember all what we tasted. What
home of tortellini.
Tortellini, exactly.
Yeah, the home of tortellini.
the home of tortellini. So this is a great excursion as well. And you know, we'll go up, have a guided tour that is a food twist to it, but you'll also see some very unique things that, you know, it's not normally a stop that a lot of people make in Italy, but when you're in Florence, you can't not go to Bologna, and you'll be able to sort of come back at your own pace. Some people want to hang around and have some dinner. So that gives you, again, a little bit of a taste, no pun intended, or maybe I did intend it, about what to expect from our LiveAway in Tuscany. I'm just going to summarize some of the logistical information, which will be in the detailed program itinerary that is going to be released with the replay of this webinar. So you will get it in your email boxes tomorrow. I'm blessed that we have, by hook or by crook, we've been managed to keep the same prices for next year as this year, all things being equal in inflation and all the things, all the factors involved. So I'm pretty happy about that. So the program, as I say, divided in two parts, Cortona and Florence. Everything shown here, Canadian dollars, different accommodation types available, whether you're single, whether you want your own spot or you're going to share with somebody. We have, as I say, studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. Both Barb and Paula can give you more information about all of that. And if you sign up sooner than later, we'll give you an additional $200 activity credit if you book with before the middle of December. So that means you'll get and you get activity credit for both Florence and Cortona. Will give you $200 on top of that to be used on either aspect of the trip. And if you book both segments, we'll give you $500 off the entire trip. So you add the two prices together, minus 500, and that's what you will get by booking sooner rather than later. And this is becoming a more and more popular trip. Judging by the number of people that we have signed up for this coming spring. We are offering it this spring as well. If you decide after this webinar you want to go sooner than later, we are going to be going in April of 2023, as well as this time next year in October. And I'm not going to go through all the inclusions. There's a lot of them there. As I say, and I made a slight mistake, it's $1,400 in Cortona for the activity credit and $800 in Florence. And again, if you book early, then you'll get that extra bonus, so that you'll get a total of about $2,400 of activities that you can choose from. And as I say, if for some reason you want to do more things on your own, we'll give you whatever you don't spend back. So that's the benefit of our program. The only thing, of course, that's not included on our trips, but we will facilitate for you if you wish, is airfare, as well as cancellation insurance, which is really, really important. And so far, airfares to Europe, as gradually the airlines get sort of back to normal, are sort of ranging around $1,000 to $1,200 from the East Coast, and a little bit more if you're flying out from the West Coast. And so we're about to get into the Q&A session, and I can already anticipate some of the questions, but Paula, maybe you can let me know if there are any. But of course, we're always here. Our email address is there, Paula and Barb, as well as the phone numbers. Call us up if you don't get the answer you're looking for. And on that note, do we have any questions? Any questions?
We do. We've got a couple of, quite a few that have come in already, so I'll go ahead and ask. George was asking, how do we choose excursions? So how does he choose excursions to know that he'll be able to get everything that he wants?
Everything that he wants on the excursion, or what do you mean?
Yes, that's how I understand it. So I think we've had this before where members are wanting to make sure that they don't miss out on anything that they want to do, and how the scheduling works. So maybe, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, for sure. So what we'll do is, in the program itinerary, we give you a sort of a summary description of all of the programs that we intend to offer. Now we're a year out, so things can and do change, but generally speaking, what we're able to finally offer comes just after the final payment. So a couple of months before the trip actually happens, we'll send out the final list of excursions. Sometimes we add things. In the rare case, we have to delete them if for some reason something's not available. And it's at that point that you can choose your excursions, go through it all in a little bit more detail, what is included, what's all involved in it. And if there's something in particular that you want to do that's not mentioned in our excursions, you can certainly ask the question, and we can see how it's possible to facilitate. Obviously, our job is to make sure that you have the trip that you want. And yeah, so hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. So a final list is sent out about just after final payment. And once you make your selections, we create the schedule from that to do our best to ensure that everyone gets all their selections.
Exactly. Out of all, of course, if we only have one person or no people sign up for a trip, then we're obviously not going to run it. But I think based on this current trip to Tuscany, I think we operated just about, I think there was only one or two that, only one or two people signed up for, so that we couldn't run. But for the most part, everybody wants to do stuff. So.
And as a result of that, it meant that on this calendar, there was only effectively one event per day. So there was never a point at which, oh, well, I'm going to have to pick between these two activities. It meant there was effectively only one schedule.
Right, exactly. And we're going to do it that way so that, you never have to choose, oh, I can only do this or that. We're not going to offer more than there are days in the calendar, because we don't really want to disappoint you. And we also want to give you a chance to have some free days, because that's part of the experience as well.
Fantastic. I have another question here from Pauline. She was asking if you can add additional nights in either location, Cortona or Florence, should she choose to arrive early or depart late, and would her transfer still be included?
Yeah, so you can definitely add on. Now, you obviously can't add on in the middle if you're going to do both, because otherwise you're going to overlap. But some of our members did arrive early, and some of our members are extending at the end. So if you're arriving early into Cortona, so what we've done this year for Cortona, because it is about 2.5 hours drive from Rome, from the airport. If you do arrive early, then we offer you a transfer in by train. So you have to go by train in Italy to get to Cortona early. It's not a big problem. We provide you the train ticket and instructions on exactly how to do that. And similarly, if you're going to stay at the end in Florence, there it's a little bit easier. We'll still provide the transfer, because this program, as with most of our programs, we include the transportation between airport and hotel.
Fantastic. I have another question here from Stephanie with regards to, will there be another LiveAway either side of this that they could combine onto Tuscany?
Good question, and I should have mentioned that exactly. So immediately, let me think now, this one's in October. So at this point, we may have another LiveAway in Sicily. We haven't released it yet. That will happen, Amalfi Coast. That may happen immediately before this. So we haven't finalized that one yet. So our spring program definitely has LiveAway beforehand to the Amalfi Coast, to Sorrento. But for the fall one, we haven't released it yet, but we're contemplating doing the same thing. So Stephanie will get back to you on that with other LiveAways that you can add on.
Perfect. And then one final question was, how is breakfast arranged to be included in the unique apartments?
So the breakfast is what we're going to do for next year. So this year we had breakfast delivered to the apartments. So our local host, Francesco, actually put a little breakfast basket together, and I know that went over quite well. And so it'll either be that or at a local cafe that is nearby. So again, all the apartments are pretty close to the center of town, and there's a couple of cafes that we love to go to. So it'll either be close by in a cafe or it'll be delivered. That's something that we're still working out the logistics of. So, but don't worry, we'll make sure you get some breakfast.
Yeah, don't want to miss out on the food, as it seems. Fantastic. That brings me to the end of the questions that have come in so far.
Okay, fantastic. Well, if you didn't get your question answered, or if there's anything else that comes up, again, drop us a note. Our information is there. And I just want to say thank you to Alfie to joining us all the way from Cortona. Wish you and the members a great continuation of your trip.
Headed off to Florence in a couple of days. So having our final dinner for those who are not joining us on to Florence tomorrow, which we're all looking forward to. But yeah, on to Florence, my favorite city in Europe.
There you go. So yeah, thank you, Paula, and thanks to everybody for joining us. I look forward to catching up with you on our next webinar. Stay tuned in our newsletter when we'll be announcing that. Not next week because I'm on the Canal du Midi with guests in France. The week after, we'll be bringing you our next webinar. And Paula, did you stick that in the chat box? No. Oh, I see one more question that just came in about the cancellation. All the details on cancellation, just review the program itinerary. It'll spell it all out for you, how all that works with the cancellation policy. Okie dokie. Thanks again for joining us, folks, and look forward to catching up with you all again very, very soon.